How does a natural survival mechanism affect our emotions? Your brain is designed for survival, and our ancestors back several thousands of years ago in the past had to survive out in the wild, in the jungles to procreate. And they were facing threats hundreds or thousands of times throughout their lifetime. But unlike our ancestors, we don't face those same types of threats every second. But yet the survival mechanism of our brains scanning for threats around the environment hasn't changed. And this causes the brain to give more prominence or significance towards the negative events rather than the positive ones. And this is what is known as negativity bias. The biggest one for us is the fear of rejection, which is extremely hardwired into our brain. But in this day and age, being rejected has little to literally no consequences in our long term, especially for survival. You can be hated by literally by the world, but you can still have a job. You can have a lovely family, a roof over your head, probably several roofs over your head, plenty of food, drive Lambos. But it's because of our perception that our brain creates of rejection which threatens our survival. Because you see, a lot of successful entrepreneurs have been rejected thousands of times throughout their life, but they were still able to become successful. And this hard wiring of rejection can be painful, although we know rejection is really no big deal, but the emotional pain felt and experienced is so significant that it outweighs hundreds of positive things. If you listen to your mind consistently, you create more drama around it and narratives about yourself, which you identify, that you believe that you aren't worthy of something, that you aren't worthy of love, and dwell on it for several weeks, even months, that it even transfers and influences your behavior and your interaction amongst people. You're operating at a very low vibrational frequency, and the people around you also are the ones that you attract who operate on this end as well. And instead of being in the moment or being mindful with your friends or with your co-workers or whoever it is, you're so busy focusing on these thoughts and narratives, and it makes it worse and worse because you're compounding more of this narrative to yourself, so it intensifies it, and eventually it comes to a point where you just become depressed. And it's been found that shame is the lowest vibrational frequency, hence why once criticism can outweigh hundreds of positive ones. It's because of the negative reviews that can threaten our ego, which triggers emotional responses and reactions. The fear of rejection can also lead to over-dramatization, as I mentioned. For example, if your boss starts to critique you at work, then your brain starts to create these narratives. It's like, what if he starts to fire me? Or what if I don't find a job or I don't get a job? My partner will leave me. How will I be able to provide for my family? What if I can't see the kids or anything? It's things like these thoughts start to pop up. While you are fortunate to have this useful mechanism or survival mechanism, it is your responsibility to be able to identify the real threats versus the imaginary ones. I'm sure majority of the time it's imaginary ones. And if you don't have this responsibility or are unconscious of this, you will place unnecessary pain and worry amongst yourself, which negatively affects and impacts your quality of life. To overcome this bias towards negativity, you need to reprogram your mind. One of the greatest powers that we have is the ability to use our thoughts to shape our reality and interpret these events to empower us. And there's a quote that goes, "As a man thinketh, so is he." Everything starts from your thoughts and it transfers over to your behaviors, or to your beliefs, your behaviors, your actions. Then that defines your character, and then it ends up building your habits and essentially your destiny. An action step that I would suggest is to identify what imaginary threats do you have right now, and highlight the ones that are reoccurring as well. And you want to become more conscious of what narratives is your brain creating. What negative biases do you have about yourself, especially? and then eventually we will start to understand how you can overcome this. So this was part 1 of Emotional Mastery series, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for the next part.